Good morning, friends. I'm out here on looks like an overcast day, but I am sad to say it's mostly a smoky day in San Francisco, post 4th of July, summer fire season. Yeah, feeling it today. But I am doing my morning foot workout. I shouldn't even really call this one a workout. I do workouts for my feet throughout the day, but this is their first warm-up. Yes, if you haven't already seen, or if I haven't already shared, probably about a month or 6 weeks ago now, I bruised my foot pretty badly. And I will tell the story of how I bruised it because it's just ridiculous and people should know. But I bruised it and I should have just rested it. I should have done what I know to do. But instead, I was really stubborn and I walked and I aggravated it by compensating, which led to a different, more obnoxious injury, which was a nerve pain in my right foot. There's so much learning that has come out of this injury about my specific foot, the specific injury, and some other derivative insights. One of those has been that I really had a lot of room to grow with strengthening my feet. And I was like, my feet are pretty strong relative to what they had been and relative to a lot of people I meet. And I hadn't had foot injuries. So this unforced error bruise, I'm pausing because it's just such a ridiculous story. This unforced error bruise led me to then uncover that I had, some vulnerabilities. And therefore, a big part of my rehab from this bruise has been a massive upgrade in my foot strengthening. And it has taught me so much, and I'm so excited to share it with you because I think it's going to help a lot of you. And there's just going to be, I think you're going to, I'm smiling because it's been such a game changer. It's been exciting, like literally exciting. And, I get excited about foot stuff easily, but I think it's because it changes our lives when our feet don't hurt and when they function well. It's like, our whole body gets an upgrade, a level shift upgrade. So my foot warm-up starts usually, we can think about the foot, and the emphasis of the strengthening is really going hard on the plantar flexors. So just quick orientation. This is dorsiflexion. Sometimes people call this extension, and if I flare my toes back that direction, like towards my center, towards the sky, people think of that as dorsiflexion or extension. And then plantar flexion is towards the plantar surface of the foot, and towards planting those feet on the ground. That's all. We'll just leave that there. So we need strength in both directions, and I will make more detailed videos about the strengthening stuff I do. But we really just need to get more comfortable and super more aggressive and interested in strengthening our feet in this plantar direction. So this is me. First of all, I have a very rigid foot. My foot does not move much. I can squeeze on it really hard and it doesn't really show. I can get some kind of white knuckling here. I can see it tremble. I can squeeze until the blood is like coming out of it because I'm making that white knuckled fist so hard. Like I can see it. But it's not going to make really impressive shapes. Whereas someone who has like a soft, more malleable, or a flat foot, you might do this, and if you were squeezing your foot the way I am, it would just like rainbow over. I've seen it. I have friends with very different foot types from me, and it's illuminating. But the first thing I'm doing is I'm warming up the toes, which are the first part of that flexion, direct towards the floor. And then I might start putting a little bit extra emphasis. We can think of the foot as having these different segments. The toe portion, the navicular forward, right, the metatarsal section, the rear foot, metatarsal to calcaneus, and then the ankle portion. And each one of these has a role in this full-on experience of pointing the ankle towards the floor, so plantar flexion at the ankle, plantar flexion, it's not that it's that distinguishable, especially on my foot that doesn't move much, but I'm squeezing. I think you can kind of see that the wrinkles in that foot, the emphasis is that I'm trying to get my foot to hinge here, right? I'm really trying to get my foot to hinge there, and then the forefoot, and then the toes. So again, it's not that it's super demonstrative for video, but your goal is to work on strengthening and coordinating each of those pieces. And then you can do things like what I'm doing now. I'm also squeezing those toes together. I'm adducting them. We'll talk. Everyone's like, but what about my foot spacers and splay and all the... Yeah, yep, we'll talk. Okay? But the same muscles, the long flexors of the toes that come up into your deep calf compartment and come down on either side. But in particular, we're talking about the deep flexors that come under here, that grab onto the bottom tippy toes. They grab onto the longest muscles from the deep calf, go onto the furthest out phalange joint of the toes. All right? The shorter intrinsic flexors of the foot actually grab the second digit. Isn't that interesting? I thought that was really interesting. And part of it is because the ones in those long flexors want to push straight down into the floor. They don't want to crunch. There's a time and place for counting marbles and scrunching towels, and we'll get to it. These are your cleats. These are going to grab the ground. These are going to fortify that push pressure down. But first and foremost, and a lot of us are very weak, at least when I say a lot of us, I'll just speak for myself, but I do notice why we were very weak in pushing down in there from those long flexors. And those long flexors also pull and knit. I can't really simulate this because we're not talking about my fingers, we're talking about the metatarsals. So it would be like if you pictured those tendons popping up, knitting together like the blades of a fan, all right? Or the ribs of a fan that you're closing. The bones in the foot absolutely knit together, okay? And there's actually, not only do the long flexors have that pulling angle under the foot, and I'll show you pictures, but short muscles, like intrinsic flexors in the foot, grab on to that same tendon that pulls from the bottom of these toes under this pulley hook. How convenient. How well designed. They pull under, and then the ones in the foot, the intrinsic muscles in the foot, grab onto that tendon and pull it even harder and give it even more ruddering strength. So there's a lot of anatomy showing us how important this ability to strengthen and fortify the foot in plantar flexion. A lot more muscles on the bottom of the foot than on the top. I mean, look at the shin compared to the calf. Like the belly of the calf. I'm not saying these muscles aren't important. No. Of course they are. Of course, we absolutely need extensors. We need foot splay. We need range of motion and deceleration massively. But just look at the priority that the body tells you. We got a lot more meat, and we should have more meat in our foot. My chiropractor was like, your arches aren't that high. I was like, dude, my navicular is up here. I've grown like 2 centimeters of muscle that makes it look like my arch isn't as high as it is. But when my feet were frail and, pedicured, it's been a long time, friends. It's been a long time. Or actually, it hasn't been a long time, but it feels like a major transformation. I was like, yeah, they looked like little ruby, glass slipper feet, right? And they looked frail and bony and elegant and quote unquote socially feminine. And the arch was much more pronounced. That's all muscle. That's not inflammation. That's not sore. That's like the beefy muscle here of my palm, right? And I never had that. So anyway, I said, why am I telling you this? Oh, to remind you, we have these muscles. We don't usually see them because all we see is bones in the feet, right? We see only bones and we don't think about there's, 20 some odd muscles interacting from your toes to your back of your knee that need you to be able to do this action, pushing those feet down without cramping, without hiccup, and with maximum coordinated control from the toes all the way the buttress of the arch, which we'll talk about. I like to analogize the structure of the foot to a tent. It has to be rooted. Like if you've ever built a tent, each one of these segments is like one of the metal rods. This is the type of tent I've set up, right? You have the rods that are elasticated together, and then they fold up, and then you unfold them. Now, if you just lie them on the ground, they're flat. They're just going to splay, right? You get no support structure out of that. But if you start to thread them through tissue that could form an arc, and you combine them together, and that alone isn't going to do it. You can put the poles in the fabric of the tent and lie it on the ground flat. You have a splayed, collapsed foot. But if you dig the ends of those poles into the ground, then you might start to be able to get an arch. Importantly, what if you only dig one end of the pole in the ground? You strike your heel, but you don't use your toes. you still get a collapsed foot. You stab the tent pole in the ground and it collapses flat. Right? No dome, no arc, no infrastructure, no tensegrity in the system. But if you put it in the ground on both sides, you root those toes into the ground, you're balanced on your and stable in your heel and your ankle mortise joint, right? You're strong on both ends. Aha! Now, when you rock over that foot, and I know this is an abstraction, but you're imagining I struck the ground with my foot, with my heel. Strike is a strong word, right? But I connected with the ground with my heel, and I roll over my foot. My shin is coming over my foot. I'm pressing through the ground. I'm going to step off the toe next. If I have good action, if I can use those toes like I'm supposed to, which I first learned from Dr. Tom Michaud, by the way, famous, what is his book? Human Locomotion. The guy wrote Human Locomotion, and he's a running coach and physical therapist and podiatrist, movement specialist. He was like, people don't use their toes. People don't use their toes. So if you're not using your toes, then you just have one end of that tent pole in the ground, and you need to drive those toes in so that you can sustain your arch. And what allows you to push those toes into the ground? All these muscles, right? All the long and short flexors of the feet. Boom. It's that simple. All right. So this was kind of a long video. I'm going to get back to my actual workout for my feet, or warm-up workout. I usually end up squeezing these muscles throughout the day, a few separate sessions, 10, 15, sometimes longer, depending on what I have time for. At the end of the day, I'll work them even harder, because usually after a walk or some more modest amount of exercise, they really want to go through their full range of motion and be kind of worked. It's amazing. The feet want work. They don't want rest. They want work. You have to try this. It's kind of amazing. It's a little bit, feels like magic. The more you work them, the harder you work them, the stronger they get, the more they just want work. I jumped on this concrete barefoot for the first time yesterday. Jumped, like leapt and jumped. And this is the first time I've been doing that post-injury. I thought I was going to wake up with a sort of a sensitive, gimpy foot, just like it was going to be mad at me. Nope, nope, nope. It is here for it. It is here for it, and it's like, please, let's do the squeezing, get me warmed up to face the day. So your feet want work. They want to be strong, and the only way for them to be pain-free is for them to be strong enough to carry our booties around all day like we asked them to. All right, friends, I'll cut off there. Hope it's been a good intro orientation. I'm excited to teach you more about the strengthening I've done. It's so anticlimactic. It's going to blow you away. But no one else is doing it. No one else is talking about it. And I just want to share that the simplest, least exciting, least climactic, least equipment necessitating training can do a lot for you. So let's get after it.